Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. This week, we have a very special guest with us. We have a mentor of our own, as well, a guest mentor today named Art. And Art's going to start us with a great introduction of himself. And then Emily and Fabio are going to go ahead and jump right in for interview questions. And students, if you have questions, go ahead and if timing's good, go ahead and unmute your mic and ask the question if you'd like. Or you can always type in your question on the side, and Emily and Fabio will incorporate it into their interview. So welcome, Art.
Thank you. Yeah, as you all see, my name is Art. I've been doing UI UX for close to 20 years and been fortunate enough to work with big labels such as Sony, HP, Lenovo, Toshiba, you name it, I've worked, with big name. And right now I work as a director of UI UX in a startup company called Attack IQ, and basically bringing my UI UX expertise into cybersecurity and protecting, trying to prevent things like what happened to Yahoo, what happened to FICO, and things like that. Was it FICO or was it? I don't remember. But yeah, I'm battling the cyber. I'm in the cybersecurity right now, and it's very challenging when it comes to UI UX and cybersecurity.
Cool. How did you find your way into UX? And then, this is a two-part question. Once you got there, how did you start to specialize in cybersecurity? What was your path like?
Well, I'm fairly new to cybersecurity part. Let's put that right. So I had no experience whatsoever before I joined this position. But what got me into UI UX was I always thought I'm going to be in IT. I had a clear vision. I'm going to become. I graduated in computer science from Europe, and I started my IT background, networking, and my mind was set. But after a very short time, I really got tired of it because it was long hours, no vacation, and I didn't find myself contributing where I wanted to be. So that's what I started looking into. I'm a creative person. I do music. I've been doing music for 30 plus years. So being in that field, I want to do something that's more in line with my passion. I want to be more creative. So started doing learn graphic, working as a graphic artist for like 5+ years. And with my IT background and, started looking into web devs, I did a few projects with myself, and UI really got my attention because back then the UX really didn't have a space. We're talking about 96, 97. So you talk UX, people don't even know people refer to UI as a GUI, so it's like really, really old days. And the more I worked in UI, the more, I felt this is really could be my passion. Went back to school, got my human factor engineering, and I've been in the field since, that's basically the nutshell.
Awesome. Interesting to hear that. And you mentioned that back in the day, people used to call user interfaces GUIs, like GUIs. I used to love that term. I'm not sure why we changed. That was a great term. Like, it sounded just so cool.
Yeah, graphical
user
interface.
It was awesome. All right. So you have a really interesting background because you have a lot of engineering expertise. You understand about computer science, and now you're also working in UX. When you first started making that transition, right? When you first started working more and more with UX, what were some of the major difficulties you faced?
Major difficulties was people not understanding the concept of UX. I would basically be hired as a UX engineer, and the first day my boss would come to me and says, okay, we're so happy you're on board. When can we see the UX? And then I would say, well, wait a minute, what do you want to see? UX is nothing you can design. Oh, no, we hired you as a UX designer. You're going to design or something. I say, UX? No, I'm not going to design you any UX. UI part of it, yes. And then I felt the biggest challenge was the disconnect between the stakeholders understanding what really UX means. And that was, to this day, I'm actually battling that position, because to this day is really not not 100% clear to businesses what really UX should be doing. Is it UX research? Is it UX designer? Is it UX? What is it? What part of UX are we talking about? So that is the biggest challenge.
Yeah. What are some things that you've done? Sorry, it's noisy here. What are some things that you've done and things that you've taught, I guess, to people who have hired you? Like, how did you get them to understand what UX is? And has it changed over the years from like when you first heard that question to the same challenge you're experiencing now?
It has changed because businesses are getting familiar more and more with the term UX terminology, and they're educated in themselves because I've seen in the trend boosting in the UX field more and more. It's not there yet. There's still, I say, 5 years, 10 years behind. We're right now everybody knows what a front end dev is, right? Back end dev. It's like a clear path. You come out, okay, I need a front end developer. These are the requirements. Everybody clear. But it's still fuzzy when it comes to hiring a UX professionals and UI UX team, building a team. As some people have a glimpse, some people have maybe read a small book or something in that area. It's getting better. It's really getting better, but it still has a lot of room to improve on. Yeah, and that's what my perception.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I agree.
Got you. Interesting. So
Yeah.
in those early years, then when you were transitioning, you were doing more and more UX work. If you were to go back, would you do anything differently?
Differently. Well, considering the limitation that I had, what I had to work with. I would probably get in more into UX engineer more versus a designer, and I would probably look at it different as a behavioral. How can an application and I actually I would consider everything outside in versus how much value what I'm contributing on day-to-day basis is bringing into the application versus focusing more on, okay, I want to build this and this is how it should be. When I click here, this should happen and things like that. That would be my takeaway, that focusing on value on day-to-day, second by second, keeping customer in front of my thought pattern at all times. That would be the thing I would be different. Yeah.
Cool. Have you been able to incorporate any of those things that you just mentioned into your current work, like things that you would have done differently back then?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Apply that now.
Yeah, I'm practicing a full lean agile, lean design methodology. And I think to me, that's the future, because if you're not designing for customer, what are we designing really? And it's not only about design either. It's creating values. If customer doesn't see value in what we are doing, then they're not engaged. And at the end of the day, what do we want? We want engagement, right? And that's the winner card for every single application out there. If customer not feeling engaged, they're not using it. If they're not using it, they're not renewing, they're not buying, they're not expanding. So that is the biggest thing. Yeah.
Interesting. So again, you've had this really long journey in UX, and you've seen the field change. I'm sure. I mean, especially now working in cybersecurity, like you're facing challenges that probably didn't even exist 10, 15 years ago. So right now, what are some of the major challenges you're facing from a UX perspective? Like, what are the big problems you're
biggest challenging I'm facing is measuring customer gain and customer value in an application. That's the biggest, because what I found, we do customer survey, we do customer research, and then they tell us something else, and then we get to behavioral and we watch them. Well, you said this is what you said and this is what you did. They're not in line with each other. So sometimes even when you're practicing lean UX, the data you gather than what's actual out there is completely different, right? And how do you stitch these two together? How do you understand even the data is coming back from customer is actually valid? And how do you use it? And how do you validate it? It's a challenge I battle with every single day and second.
Can you talk a little bit about what your team structure is like in your current work?
Yeah, basically, we are a team of 4, and we're a startup, so it's fairly small. We have 2 front end, we have a UX researcher, and it's me, and we have two people strictly on front end. They don't do any design. The design is happen from our end. We basically do design, iteration, validation, and it goes to them. It's just they just all they care about building. They don't want to think about design. They don't want to. They just tell me what you need, I deliver it to you. And then we have a researcher that does all the research, comes back and say, okay, how much value this brings back to application? The researcher focuses more on the whys, not on the how. And one thing I really emphasize on is like, I don't care how we're going to build it. I need to know why we have to build it. It's all about the whys first, And if you have a clear case, a strong case, okay, let's now talk about how we're going to build it with the limitations that we have. So that's our team. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Interesting.
Go ahead, Fabio.
All right, awesome. So what I was going to ask is, if you were to, I'm sure there are students in the office hours right now watching, or maybe they're going to watch later, but I'm sure we have a number of students who are also transitioning from different field to UX, or they're just getting started now. If you were to give maybe 2 or 3 tips to students who are getting started right now, what would be?
Basically, that's a very good question. I would say be clear on the path you're about to take. Do you want to be a UX engineer? You want to be a UX designer? You want to be a researcher? You could do all of. I've done all of them, in my past. But which one are you most? What is your strength? Is your passion into research? Then you should really be more of a UX researcher. Is your passion into a development? Then you should more be of UX engineer and do prototyping in code at code level. I was at a job 2 years. I was doing nothing. It was moving so fast. I didn't have time to prototype in Azure, Sketch, or Balsamic, or any of these tools. I had to actually prototype in code. So that's a different job, So did I like it? No, I didn't like it. It was very stressful and moving too fast, and I didn't have time to think sometimes, even before even doing something. So be very clear on the task and the title you're pursuing. And I think sticking to that one specific and be the best at it will bring you the best result in your career.
Yeah, I think that what I tell students a lot of times, it can be a good idea when you're first starting out to work in a place where you get the opportunity to try lots of different things, including some prototyping, some research, take a generalist approach in the beginning so that you can learn where you might be drawn to or what you might be better at, because it can take some time to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, and then, one thing I want to add into it, it's not every day's luxury that you go to an environment that is a phenomenal developer sitting on your fingertip that you can turn your amazing designs into actual product, right? So this is my expertise. I think knowing at least HTML, CSS to a level and be very familiar with a library such as, Bootstrap, Material Design, something that enhances you and take your design to a next level. Because when your design goes to a hand of somebody, they might not even be their developer, they might not even be pixel oriented, right? So, and how can you make sure that you don't go back to him for every single pixel and enhancement? And if you're a little bit developer, maybe 101 kind of skills, then you can pull up the code and do the changes yourself. It saves the company a lot of time and less confusion and cleaner work and output on your end. maybe knowing some kind of developer, be a little bit of UX engineer will also help you. So they don't have to hire another guy to do all of that. Maybe you can do all the front end, most of the cosmetic front end on your end. That's just my 2 cents. Yeah.
It's just so hard to use the Zoom app on mobile. I should even unmute myself. Anyway, all right. So that you bring up a really interesting point, and I know that personally it took me a number of years to really get comfortable with the development team and make sure we had this really good. We were like synchronized. I was giving them the deliverables and the documentation they needed to really execute on the designs. All right. So that's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
If you were, so I'm sure that we have a lot of students here who are working with development teams or that will work with development teams, right? What are some of the tips you would give them to make sure they have a good sync, they know how to pass on the designs? Like, give us some tips on making that collaboration easier.
You have so many good questions. The biggest tip in that is be familiar and in line with the tools and the platform that framework that the development is using, right? If the development is dead on material design and you're dead on Bootstrap, you come in and do everything in Bootstrap and they look at it and say, well, they can deliver. Anybody at the end of the day can deliver anything, but it's just a matter of speed and throughput, right? So be in line with the development team's tools and the framework that they are using, and be one with them. So if they're on for example HTML CSS, HTML5 CSS3, then you do everything in that scope, then things go faster, no confusion, and you don't have to convert your stuff later on. So understanding the environment, I think, is the key to success. And make sure if you're designing, not just do mock, do behavioral, right? What happens if somebody clicks here? That's why I love Azure so much, because it allows me to do all those behavioral, very down to details. And I like to be detailed because nothing makes developers happy than seeing details. So they don't have to think about design. Everything is laid out. Okay, click here, something opens up. Oh, okay, I just code that. So don't leave things to developer because they're so busy in their day-to-day. You might get something back that is total surprise to you.
Absolutely. I've seen that just a million times. And you mentioned Azure. What are some tools that you really enjoy for the whole design process, like other than Azure?
I've actually using, I'm really advanced in Azure. I've contributed and wrote many libraries, widgets for Azure, which is on their platform right now. Learning Azure is not easy, right? It has a learning curve. If InVision is really good. I love InVision. Sketch is next. That's pretty much. I use Photoshop XD. I don't recommend it. I don't see any point and value in it. It's a waste of time. That's just my perception. But I think if you're going to learn a few tools out there, Azure and InVision is my top 2 choices.
Cool. I want to ask about what you think makes really good interview candidates when you're talking to new designers who you are evaluating to work with or to maybe work for you. If you've ever managed designers, what stands out to you for a potential new design hire? What makes a good portfolio? What makes a good interview?
Awesome. Yeah, that's a really good question. The first thing, I've been in a team where I had to hire like 8 or 9 different designers, including designer front end, but things like that. So I've experienced that really in the environment. The first thing I look at when I see I look at the portfolio. The portfolio, if they didn't take the time to have a solid portfolio where they tell me, okay, what was the objective? What was their thinking pattern? What design method they use? What tools they use? If they're not walking me through the process of the objective and all they've done, to me, that's really not useful, because that is what I get when I hire them, right? That's the thought pattern I get when I hire them. So I really want to see step by step what they did on their portfolio, if they showcasing their UX. And then next thing I look at is like what library they're familiar with. It's very, very few scenarios I've seen where a user was best at everything. Usually they're good at one thing, one area. So that's what. And then what is the level of pixel perfection? I take pixel perfection extremely serious. If I've seen people go, I didn't think one pixel is matter that much. To me, you're not ready yet. And then another thing, how familiar are you with, how much hands-on do you have with HTML, CSS, and at least give me one library that you're expert in, at least understand the spec. And I think understanding the UI spec overall makes you an amazing designer, because if you don't know a spec, what are you designing for? So I take those things very seriously.
What do you see as what makes someone a mid-level designer versus a junior designer? How do you see the responsibilities changing as someone grows in their design career?
It's understanding the requirements. A junior designer I work with, I have to spend a lot of time to make sure they understand the requirement, and sometimes they come back, it's close, but it's not there. But versus a mid-level designer understands the requirement faster and delivers faster, and it's more, it's even closer to the requirement. I think that's what the expertise buys you, where you'll see the requirement once you know exactly you delivered dead on, very close to requirement, versus you have to come back and you have to be explained again, and either what's delivered is not close to a spec, or it has to be changed, it has to be massaged, and things like that.
Cool. What do you think is going to change about the UX field in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, where do you see things going?
Well, I see a trend is boosting up, and what right now we are dealing with a very, very beginning of understanding UX and how it can really help customers, right? I think what's going to changing, I think AI, artificial intelligence, is playing a huge role in UI UX, where things are getting more and more automated. Because think about it, users, they don't want to have more clicks, they don't want to think when they're using an application. The less we make him think, the better UX we have, the less we have to teach him, hey, you have to click here, now click here. They don't want that, right? So AI is solving a lot of issues, were automation issues. And I think AI and UI kind of is merging together in the next 5-10 years.
Do you have any resources that you've used or found helpful to help you learn about how to incorporate AI, or educate yourself about, how to prepare yourself for what might be coming?
I'm actually writing a book on that. This is what I did. I don't know if you're familiar with Affectiva's platform. It's basically a face emotion reader platform. That's I'm actually writing a book on how to have dynamic user experience for based on your emotions, your application behavioral changes. To, if you're sad, then I should know, application wise knows you're sad, then I should not drill into the thing that makes you more, even more sad. So I should bring you out and what I did make you happy. Then very fluid dynamic UX and UI, that's I haven't found in one source. I'm actually looking, that's really, it's very new, but I'm actually writing a book. It should hit Amazon in about 2-3 months on this thing. I've done extensive research on these things, so I think it can help a lot.
That's awesome. You'll have to share the link to your book when it's out. That's really exciting.
Definitely.
Cool. So let's see. How do you think that UX designers or how do you think the UX designer role will change along with all of those things that are coming? Like, do you think that our role in the tech field will shape or turn into something a little bit different than it is today?
I think the role of kind of UX designer and engineer is emerging. There was a time where I could just go to work and only do designs, right? Right now, it's kind of changing. Last 5 years, I find myself to overlap. I needed to know technologies. I need to know frameworks in order to do my day-to-day job. And I think the way it's going is emerging together, where we need to know more than just than the spec, UI, UX. We need to be a little bit more technical, and that's the requirement. It wasn't by choice. I was kind of pushed in it, and that's the force that's trending more and more from what am I seeing. Somebody might look at it and says, I'm doing more design right now. But my perception would be I had to do more technique, take more advanced stuff along with my UI UX work. And I think as from what I'm seeing is that's the trend that's coming up.
Awesome. Okay, I think we have time for one student question that's in the sidebar.
Awesome.
Okay, Nirali, I hope I'm saying that right. Please correct me if I'm not. Asks, not having actual market experience, how do we break into the market and compete with candidates with actual market experience? Good question.
Good question, yeah. Understanding your personas is very important, right? Who are you designing for? What persona are you designing for? I think even before even starting any kind of design, you need to know why. Drilling to why is extremely important. I cannot emphasize on that, because if you don't know the why, knowing the hows is really irrelevant. It has no value. And then constantly knowing what the competition is doing, learn from the competition, learn from the market space they are in, and not copy them, and see how you can be better. What makes you different? If we have two apples, both of them are red, both of them are apple, what makes the one apple better than the another? Understand the sympathy mapping. It's very important. Understand the pain and gains of the application that's out there, and how you can be differentiate from those. What makes your application? If you were out there and selling it today, and the guy said, well, there is this other red apple, why would I buy yours? How would you defend your argument? They're saying, well, this is why we are different, and this is why you should buy us.
Great. Thank you so much, Art.
No
I feel
problem.
like you've shared so much knowledge, and with all your years of experience, I'm sure students have so much more to learn from you. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Well, UX is, I think the UX in the next 5 or 10 years is going to be one of the top, jobs out there, because it's trending.
Yeah, great news, right, students? So yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. And when if Art would like to share, when you publish that book, if you'd like to share
Definitely.
with us, we'd love to share it with the students in the online
Sure,
community
I
as
will.
well.
Definitely.
Cool.
I already have a book out. It's about lean UX. If anybody is interested, it's on Amazon. I think if you have a Kindle, you can download it even for free. But I'm willing to share it for free. Anybody wants. It teaches 5 minutes. It's called 5 Minutes to Lean UX. It's basically all my experience learning about the startup methodology and lean UX. And another issue I've also saw is like, how do you incorporate your day-to-day UX work into Agile, right? Because Agile, you have Agile and you have UX. How do you merge these two together? And then the book talks about a little bit about that too. So it's a good read. I made it 30 pages, so you can read it in 5 minutes. That's why it's called 5 Minutes to Lean UX.
Cool.
And I think Lean UX is a better way of understanding a day-to-day job of UX designers.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you so much.
No
I'm sure
problem.
students will be interested in checking that out. So I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll see you guys again next week.
Awesome. Great. Take care.
Awesome. Really good to interview you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.